Have you ever annoyed an HOA so badly they took you to court twice? Back in the late 1990s, when I was still in high school, one of my teachers told our class a story to explain why we would be having a substitute teacher the following week, although it quickly became obvious that the explanation itself was just a convenient excuse to share something so ridiculous and unforgettable that it immediately became the highlight of our semester. At the time, my teacher, let's call him Mr. Carter, was in his late 30s, newly married, and enjoying the excitement that comes with buying your very first home together after years of renting, saving money, and imagining what real home ownership would finally feel like once the paperwork was done. Like most starter homes in suburban developments, the house came with a homeowners association, and while Mr. Carter wasn't thrilled about the idea of an HOA having authority over his property, he accepted it as part of the deal and spent several evenings carefully reading through every page of the covenants, conditions, and restrictions before signing. Less than a week after moving in and barely finishing unpacking, they received their first letter from the HOA, informing them that they were already in violation because the large tree in their front yard was not an approved species and had to be removed. The tree was not something Mr. Carter had planted himself. It was a massive, mature pecan tree that had likely been standing there for decades, providing shade during brutal Texas summers and dropping enough pecans each year to become a familiar and welcome part of daily life. The HOA argued that nut-producing trees were not allowed in front yards because a lawnmower could potentially fling a pecan through a neighbor's window, creating a safety and liability issue they claimed to be preventing. Unfortunately for the HOA, this was Texas, where the pecan tree is the official state tree, meaning it cannot legally be removed without a special permit that is only granted if the tree is diseased, dying, or poses a genuine safety risk. Mr. Carter contacted both county and state offices and received written confirmation that removing the tree without authorization could result in serious fines or legal consequences, which only deepened his frustration with how casually the HOA was dismissing those facts. He sent those responses by certified mail to the HOA's lawyers, fully expecting common sense to prevail once legal reality entered the conversation, but instead received a reply insisting the rules were binding and threatening fines if the tree was not removed within 30 days. At that point, realizing there would be no compromise, he hired his own lawyer and decided to let a judge settle the issue. The judge ruled that the HOA rules technically applied and that the tree had to go, but also ruled that because the tree existed before the development, the HOA, not the homeowner, was responsible for paying all removal costs, including permits, labor, and cleanup. Most people would have accepted that outcome, mourned the loss of the tree, and moved on with their lives. Mr. Carter did not. After the tree was removed, he reread the HOA rules carefully with a new mindset and noticed that while trees were heavily regulated down to the smallest detail, decorative flower pots in front yards were clearly allowed, with no restrictions on size, style, or appearance. So he went to Home Depot, bought hoses, fittings, and a high-quality toilet, placed it exactly where the tree had stood, connected it to his outdoor faucet, filled it with soil, and planted flowers inside, proudly calling it a self-watering flower pot. A few weeks later, another non-compliance letter arrived, claiming there was house waste in his front yard and demanding it be removed within 72 hours. Mr. Carter replied calmly that there was no waste, only a flower pot, and invited the HOA to come point out the supposed violation in person. An HOA representative arrived, immediately pointed at the toilet, and declared it an eyesore that had to be removed, but Mr. Carter calmly explained that the rules allowed flower pots and did not define what kind was acceptable. When the representative threatened to call the police, Mr. Carter agreed without hesitation, and the man left without making the call. The HOA tried once more to take him to court, where the case landed before the same judge, who dismissed it as frivolous and noted that while the flower pot choice was unconventional and eye-catching, there was nothing illegal about using a toilet as yard art under the existing rules. The toilet stayed, the flowers continued to bloom, and the HOA learned an expensive lesson about enforcing rules without thinking through every possible consequence.